Welcome to the weekly demo hosted by Vision 33. Just wanted to give you a quick agenda for today's session. It's going to be a quick overview from me, basically 5 minutes, and then I'm going to leave the remaining time for Jimmy, who's going to walk us through our demo today. Before we move to that demo, I did want to share a little bit of information about Vision 33. Selecting the right software is important, but the right partner is the difference maker for your business. So I am sure you've done your research on Sage Intacct and know it's a great product. Here at Vision 33, we do agree, but Sage Intacct without Vision is just not the same. Vision 33 is the key to unlocking the true value of Sage Intacct. Wanted to let you know of some of the things that Vision 33 brings to the table: extensive support, industry experience, long-term partnerships, and a focus on service excellence. We have many long-time customers who rely on our partnerships to support their business and keep them going day by day. Ultimately, it's our consistency, reliability, and focus on excellent customer experiences to help you get the results that you need. And when we are talking about results, we are driven by your outcomes. So our team is focused on understanding your organizational goals and implementing the strong financial core, which is Sage Intacct. Now, many good partners, they will stop there. At Vision 33, we will go the extra mile with you. This is through our skilled consultants, industry knowledge, and our focus on the right analytics and intelligent automation and integrations. So you can effectively run with your preferred tools in a seamless best of breed environment. More to come on that phrase in a bit. But here are some of our customers running Sage Intacct. They come from all over the spectrum: non-for-profit, SaaS and tech, professional services, education, healthcare, franchising, energy. Some of these logos may stand right out at you. Why they chose Vision 33? We help them realize their vision for the future. Again, most of you have done your initial research on Sage Intacct, but I did want to highlight just a few items here. Global reach, top company, recognized as a brand and a market leader. Sage Intacct is the ideal solution for growing businesses. Intacct is an all-around native cloud-based platform. Intacct has built-in solutions tailored specifically for your industry. So really view this slide as an introduction of what you're going to be seeing today in the demonstration in detail. And you're going to be hearing two terms tossed around often. That's best in class and best of breed. What that means is we recognize that we are the best core financial and accounting software, but there are other software that are the best at what they do. So we allow a seamless integration with these mission critical applications, for example, Salesforce and ADT, which is really the opposite approach from other vendors in the marketplace who believe that they have all of the best solutions under one umbrella for your organization, which is just likely untrue. So we have a full marketplace filled with these pre-built integrations that gives you the capability of automating many of the workflows and eliminating some of the error-prone processes that may exist at your organization. These are some of the key verticals for Sage Intacct globally. We do operate in all of these. Our biggest footprint is the non-for-profit space, where we have approximately 40% of our client base. Our expertise in these verticals really help us to guide our customers down the right path with their implementations, including various implementation types based on your needs. So with our vertical expertise, we're able to offer quick start and rapid implementations with pre-built reports and dashboards for your industry and sector because we have seen it all. Global reach, local focus. This applies to Sage and Vision 33. We are one of the only global Sage partners operating out of the US, the UK, and Canada. For those of you who are interested in the underlying numbers, Intacct is as secure as it gets. You no longer need to worry about backups, downtime, costly upgrades. It works all the time. It runs on AWS servers and it's encrypted at the highest level. Finally, Saltbox is Vision 33's born in the cloud IPaaS solution that's integration platform as a service. Our Saltbox platform simplifies integrations and workflows with your current applications and business processes, enabling you to do more with Sage Intacct. So this is how you can fully leverage the power of the best of breed model for your organization. So if there is ever any integration that you may want established that does not exist on the Sage marketplace, we can build it via Saltbox. And finally, I am going to pass it over to Jimmy, and he's going to walk us through our demonstration today.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for that, Michael. I'll just turn my camera on. Okay, guys. So yeah, we'll hop straight in. So this is what Sage Intacct looks like. At the top, you can see in Google Chrome. So Sage Intacct is a browser-based system. At the top, you can see there's loads of different tabs I've got open. So that's really nice because it just allows me to flip between tabs. So for example, if I'm working in one of my screens here, I can have a separate screen open in a different part of the system, working on two areas at once, and that data is going to update in real time, which is really nice. I am in a sales demo here called Hamza's Stationery Shop that I'll be using to show you guys around Intacct. Here we've got the entity selector. So Sage Intacct, it's a multi-currency, multi-entity system. So as you can see down here on the selector, I've got loads of different entities, loads of different companies set up. They're all trading in different currencies. Cool. Just because you're going to hear me saying it a lot, the difference between what the top level is and entity level. So top level is basically a global sort of view of the company. So if I'm in at top level, it allows me to sort of view reports for all my entities, the consolidated reports. I can enter transactions for any of my entities from top level. Whereas if I'm in an entity level, I'm restricted down to reports for that specific entity and transacting against that specific entity. Cool. Okay, so what I'm showing you here is a typical example of a dashboard. The nice thing about Sage Intacct is you can have any screen in the system set as your homepage. So what a lot of people will do, will set these dashboards up and they'll set this as their homepage, and it's the first thing they see when they log into Sage Intacct, which is really nice for sort of CFOs and things like that that want to come in and see sort of key KPIs as soon as they're in the system. So with these dashboards, these are basically custom dashboards that we can create with any sort of reporting and KPIs that you want in the system. We can drag them into here, order it as you guys want. So for example, here we've got a company performance graph here. Oops. The nice thing about these graphs is they're all fully drillable. So if I see a figure in my graph and just click in, it's going to open up a new window and it's going to bring me to the relating report in the system. I can then drill further into my figures. I can keep drilling until I get basically to the originating transaction that makes those figures. So whether it's a journal entry like this, or a purchase invoice or sales invoice, whatever it is, I can drill all the way to that source transaction. Again, that's really useful. Down here, we've got some KPI cards. These can be what you guys want them to be. So for example, here we've got total revenue this month compared to prior month and a little percentage increase. We can compare to budget. We can compare to the prior quarter, the prior year, whatever makes sense here. So these are all fully customizable again. And down here, we've got some other graphs broken down. This one is one I want to show in particular, the one I'm hovering over. This operating expense by department. So I'm not sure if everyone's aware what dimensions are within Sage Intacct, but I'll give a quick overview. So dimensions are basically extra reporting categories you can use within Sage Intacct to categorize your transactions in different ways. So for example, in a typical accounting system, when you're entering a transaction at the entry level, you're normally just going to be coding against the GL code or the nominal code and putting your amount and your tax in and what have you. What Sage Intacct allows is additional coding fields, which will act like buckets for your transactions. So as an example, a typical way people use dimensions is this department. So you're able to set up departments. And when you go to code a transaction, you can select the department and then report on that department in various different ways. There's loads of different dimensions you can have. You're not just restricted to department. You can have different classes. You can use sort of customer. You can tag your customer at the line, supplier, loads of different things. One we see a lot for not-for-profit is using sort of funds and different fund types. So restricted funds and non-restricted fund, tagging that at the line level, and then being able to report on that. And I'll show you some sort of other dimension-related reports in this demonstration as well. But yeah, it allows a lot of flexibility with your reporting. Cool. Yeah. So down here, we've got loads of different figures. As I've mentioned, these are all fully live. So if you're looking at your dashboard and thinking, okay, this figure here, my EBITDA doesn't look completely right, or whatever it might be, I'm able to open my new tab, go and find a transaction that I need to change, or go and add a transaction in, or whatever I need to do. And this is going to update this dashboard in real time. Yeah. So really, really nice and easy. The Sage comes with a load of pre-built dashboards, but then we're able to make them as required. I'm just going to hop in and show you a different dashboard. I'll show this AR manager's dashboard as an example. So I'll hop into here. Cool. So this is one that's been made specifically for an AR user that they might find useful to have as a homepage. So as you can see at the top here, we've got our accounts receivable balance. intercompany receivable, disputed amount, all things that are relevant for an AR-based person. On the left-hand side here, we've got a custom navigation screen. So this is really useful because basically you can add whatever area of the system, and it's like an easy point of access for them. So if I could click on add a customer, for example, that's going to open up a new screen and take me directly to the screen of adding a new customer into the system. Down here, we've got like a free text field we can add in, so some policy reminders that might be useful for someone. Yeah, an invoice list. Yeah, basically anything you can think, any sort of report you can think in the system, we are able to add this in. Up at the top here, we've got some different filters. We can filter it down and look at different entities, different locations, and different dates as well. So yeah, loads of flexibility around dashboards. Cool. What I'll quickly do is I'll hop in, as we're on sort of the topic of reporting, I'll hop into the report center in Intacct. So yeah, Intacct comes with its own designated report center, and this is basically a holding place for all the reports in the system. So if I hop into the report center here, cool. And as you can see, there's loads of different reports. Most of these come standard with Sage Intacct. So all these profit and loss reports, all your balance sheet reports come standard with the standard package from Intacct. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in here and run a profit and loss detail by department, and I can just sort of show you then what these departmentalized and dimension reports look like. So if I press run on this, select my reporting method, my as of date, and then here we can filter down by sort of these different dimensions that we have in the system. For this one, I'm just going to filter it down by a specific location. So I'm going to go to my UK entity and press OK and run that report. Cool. So this is what a dimension-based report looks like. So typically where you'd have your different aging periods at the top or different sort of actual and budget columns at the top, here we've got it broken by different departments in the system. And then obviously the revenue figures, the figures here correlating to those titles at the top. These fields on the left-hand side, these headers, these are fully customizable as well. So if your reports look a little bit different to this, or you have different breakdown for your reporting, all fully configurable, customizable in Sage Intacct as well. These reports as well, these are really easy to sort of configure, they're really easy to change and really easy to make. I'll just quickly show you how easy it is. So as an example, my profit and loss, where am I at? My profit and loss department report here. If I wanted to add, as an example, a budgeted column to the end of that, I'll just come in here and press the edit button, go to my column section, come up here and add a new column. Cool. And then I just select my column type to whatever I want that to be. So for this example, I'm going to go to a budget. So it's going to bring in actual budget figures. We can set a load of different rules here. We can say, budget for the prior period, show the next 2 months worth of budget. There's loads of things we can do here. I'm just going to do a nice and easy one. Press save on this. Cool. And if I go back to my report center, find that report, profit and loss by department, I'll run that. Hopefully if I've saved it down right. Cool. You can see I've got my master budget data there at the end. There's loads you can do with that. You can sort of add budget comparison, actual minus budget, budget variance. You can add, columns for the year. There's loads you can do with it. It's fully customizable and really easy to use, which would obviously train you how to do if you were to come to Intacct. Cool. Okay. Another nice feature of these reports is you can sort of create reporting groups and schedule them out. So if I go to my more actions here and edit schedule, I'll just quickly show what this is. So this basically is we can set reports on a schedule to be automatically emailed out the system to whoever we choose, or we could choose it to be stored directly in the cloud. So it's that easy. All you'd have to do is select a starting date for your schedule, select when it would end, or if it never ends. I'm going to put this one after a number of occurrences. Cool. And say, okay, after 10 occurrences, this automatic sending stops. Down here, if I just select my email, I'm going to select who I'm going to email it to, give it a subject, a message. What we can also do is create reporting groups. So we can tag all the groups into all the reports that we want into one reporting package, and also set that on a schedule to be sent out on a schedule in the system. Yeah, cool. So you could have that sent out to yourself, for example. You could go in and check the reports, make sure they all look good, and then forward them on to whoever needs them. So yeah, cool. A nice little bit of automation there. Okay, what I'll do is I'll hop into the AR module and I'll just sort of show you what manual entry looks like within Sage Intacct. It's the same premise whether you add in a journal entry or an AP invoice or an AR invoice or whatever it is. All the screens sort of look the same. So if I hop into my accounts receivable module and go to add an AR sales invoice here. Cool. This is my sort of entry screen. In fact, for this demo, I'm just going to hop into a specific entity. just because there might be some rules set up that we have in this test system that isn't going to let me post. Cool. Okay, so I'm in at my entity level. Okay, this is the AR sales invoice entry screen. So all the standard fields you'd see, you've got your date, the GL posting date. This is something that's customizable. You can just have a date and no separate GL posting date. You'd go in, you'd select your customer. I'm just going to select customer we've got pre-built here. These are all sort of free text fields you can use for whatever sort of reference numbers that you'd like. The other nice thing about Sage Intacct is if there's something that you see on this screen or there's something that you don't see on the screen that you'd really want to see when you're entering an AR sales invoice or an AP invoice, whatever screen you're on, we can add as many sort of custom fields as you want into the system. So if you'd want a field that said, for example, customer reference number or whatever it might be, we can just easily add that in for you guys, or we could rename fields for you to use. So you can get the screen looking as you'd want. You'd enter the term, which normally defaults based on the customer record. This customer has no terms in, so manually enter the term. The currency, again, that's going to default from the customer record, but you are able to change it. And then down here is our entries table. So this is where we code the invoice. And this is sort of where our dimensions come back into play again. So if I was to come in here, select my account, basically my nominal code or my GL account, try and add something that makes a little bit of sense here. Okay, it's not really going to make a lot of sense, but I'm going to put in here commission as an example. This is like a line level free text field, your memo, and then all you do is enter the transaction amount. I'm going to put £1,200 here. And this is where we code against our different dimensions in the system. So this system is configured to use fund, department, and location. So I just come in here, and project as well. I'd come in here, add a department, cool, check everything adds up. The tax is going to default based on what the customer record says, but you can come in here and change the tax codes and then just post the invoice, and that's going to hit the ledgers. Something that's quite nice within Sage Intacct is an additional module that I'm just going to quickly demonstrate called revenue recognition. So it's down here at the bottom. Basically what this does, if I've got an invoice that I want to sort of split across the next 12 months, I want to accrue for that, I can do that really easily and account for all them journals as I'm entering the AR sales invoice into the system. So how it works is we'll set up some templates of how it's going to be split. So these would be sort of preset, or we're able to customize them. I'm going to say, okay, I want this invoice to be sort of deferred across 12 months by selecting this one. And I'm going to say, I want the recognition of that to start at today, or 1st of February. I'll put, cool. I don't need to put an end date because it's going to know it ends after 12 months. And hopefully if I post this up at the top. Cool, so that's that invoice posted. Now quickly, if I just hop back into the invoice, go to my AR sales invoices ledger. I think it's 1,200. It might be this one. Let me, oh yeah, I've got my revenue schedules here, so it's this one. Cool. So if I hop into the invoice, go into my details, and then down at the bottom here, I can see the revenue template has been applied. And if I go to my view schedule, cool, I can see here's the journal and all the sort of journal entries it's scheduled to post into the system, all automatic, and yeah, basically month by month. So we have the exact same functionality within accounts payable. I'm not going to demonstrate that because it's the same, but reversed. But yeah, that module is available in accounts payable as well. Yeah, really nice little bit of automation there. What I'll do is I'll hop over to some purchasing and AP while we're in sort of the data entry sort of side of things. Cool. So I'll hop over to accounts payable and just sort of show you how, sorry, I'll hop over to purchasing and just sort of show how purchasing works within the system. So if you've got the purchasing module, you'd also basically get the accounts payable module. They're both linked. So any sort of suppliers that you create in the system, whether it's in purchasing or if it's in AP, they sort of link up to one list of suppliers. And it's the same for any invoices that are raised. So if you raise an invoice free purchasing, it's obviously going to hook up and feed into your AP ledger as well. I'll just give a quick demonstration of the configuration and the customization options that are available within purchasing. So if I click display workflows, cool. So this here it's quite a complicated workflow that we've got set up within our test system here. But basically what it's saying is that the first step of our workflow for a purchasing transaction is a purchase requisition. From that purchase requisition, then we can sort of create a load of different documents. There's going to be an option to create a purchase order inventory. there's going to be an option to create a blanket PO and a purchase order. What I'm going to demonstrate on this one is I'm going to go from purchase requisition to creating a purchase order into a fulfillment and then into a vendor invoice. Now, these workflows, they're fully customizable as well. So, for example, we've just done a build where it's literally just going from a purchase order to a purchase invoice. We can get rid of all these extra steps in the middle. But some companies, they'll have, you know, workflows and things like that that look double the size of this. So it's fully customizable. And there's a lot of customization per transaction definition as well. So for example, I can configure my purchase requisition completely different to my purchase order inventory. So that might be that the purchase requisition has some security on it. For example, a purchase requisition needs an approval, whereas a purchase order inventory doesn't. Or it might be that the purchase requisition is not going to post to any sort of ledgers, whereas my purchase invoice will. So that all the transactions are fully customizable and configurable within the system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my purchasing module. I'm going to start a purchase requisition. And adding a purchase requisition, it's dead easy. If I go and add at the top right, I'm not going to go through the data entry side of things again, but it's really easy. It's all your sort of usual fields you find you'd expect to see. And down at the bottom, I'd enter my sort of entries, so my item and whatever other coding needs to go against it. And if I cancel this, cool. So once that's posted, you'd have the option, usually it sits somewhere over here, to convert. So when you press convert, in fact, what I do is I will just add one very quickly so I can show how the conversion works. So I'm going to select, just really quickly add one in. Doesn't matter what I code it to really for this example. We don't have any rules set up. Okay, I've also got some approval policy on here, so it's not going to be a great example. So that's gone for approval because there's some approval policies set up. But once it's approved, and I'll show what the approvals look like as well in the system, you get a button here that says convert. Once you press convert, you're able to go in, and you can set rules around this as well. But you're able to go in, sort of change any data that you'd want. So for example, if I'm converting it to a purchase order, I'd be able to go in, and if I've got the right permissions or if this is the way we've configured the system, I'd be able to go in and change an amount if it's changed. We can also set some tolerances. So we can set some rules that say, for example, if your purchase requisition amount changes by more than 5%, it needs to go back for approval and things like that. But yeah, you'd have a button here that says convert. You'd press convert and it'd copy all the data from the purchase requisition into the next step of the workflow. So if I go to my purchase orders here, cool. Okay, so I can demonstrate a little bit better here because we've got some examples in. But yeah, if I was to press convert on my purchase order, I'd get the options of what I can convert it to. I'm going to convert it to a fulfillment. So I press it. Cool. And this is going to copy all the details from that purchase order onto my fulfillment. Again, I can go in, add any data in, remove any data I want, all sort of permission dependent and how we configure the system, and post it. And that's basically how the workflow works. You just push it through the workflow until you hit AP or the last stage of the workflow, and that's going to feed into your AP ledger. Let me quickly, just going to go back one step so I can try and show some purchasing approvals. Cool. Okay. So within purchasing, and this is sort of system-wide as well, we can have sort of similar rules set up across the system. We can set up approval policies for each individual purchasing transaction. So there's a couple of different ways you can have them implemented, but an example of one is a simple value-based approval. So if an invoice is above a certain amount, this user needs to approve it, or this group of users needs to approve that invoice. If it's above, I don't know, £5,000, it gets escalated to the next person and so on. You can also have sort of dimension-based or department-based approvals, where if a certain purchase order or purchase invoice is coded directly to a certain department, that needs to go to approval for a certain user. You can have a combination of department and value. There's loads of different sort of approval policies in Intacct. Whatever sort of approval matrix you're currently using, it's probably possible within Sage Intacct. And how it'd work if this transaction definition had an approval policy attached to it, then when you press post, it wouldn't actually hit any ledger or wouldn't actually be converted. It would be sent directly via email to the person who needs to approve it. they'd get an email that says this user has submitted a purchase requisition that needs to be approved. It'd give them a link on the email directly to the purchase requisition. They could click on that, come into the screen and approve that purchase requisition or deny it. And then, yeah, usual process from there. So there's loads of functionality, again, around sort of purchasing. And we can set up similar sort of rules in AP as well. Cool. Okay. I'll hop on to sort of some of the cash management features. So yeah, Intacct has its own a module called cash management, which is basically where all your banking sits. So within Intacct, you can hook up bank feeds directly into the system, which basically means every day, no matter what bank you're with, most banks in the world are sort of supported by Intacct. Every day in the morning, I know something like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, it's going to pull in all the transactions from the previous day directly into your system, which is really nice because if I hop into a bank rec here in the system, I'll show how to do a bank rec also. I think this one's a good example to have a feed hooked up. Cool. Okay, so this is a bank rec screen within Sage Intacct. I'll go over what this is in a bit more detail in a second. But as you can see here, we've got two tabs. We've got the Intacct tab, which is showing all the sort of transactions that have been manually entered into Intacct and ready for reconciliation. And on this tab here, we've got the bank tab. So this is pulling directly from the bank feed, sort of automatically every day. These transactions will pull in and be ready to reconcile, which is really nice because how it works is I've got a transaction here, this £1,000 from HCI Group. If I click match on that, that's going to take me directly to the other side. So this is going to take me to the bank side. And from this point, I'm able to sort of select the transactions or groups of transactions or whatever it is that match against that £1,000 and match and go next. And that's going to allocate those two together. So nice and easy. You can also do the same from the bank side, which is the same functionality. It's just going to take you back to the Intacct side. And you also have the action key here. So this is really nice as well because you can generate transactions directly from the bank rec. So if you're at the end of the bank rec and you've got a couple of transactions that haven't been entered into Intacct yet, you can come here and press action and create, for example, a journal entry or receive a payment directly from the bank rec screen, which is really nice because I know with other systems you have to sort of close the rec, go out, allocate those transactions, then come back in. But there's no need for that in Intacct. So within the bank rec as well, there's another really nice feature called matching and creation rules that you can apply to each bank individually or just as a blanket over all your banks. So if I go to my setup and configuration, cool. So these are basically, I'll show this one here. Yeah, these are basically rules that say we can set up. So this one here is an example of a matching rule. And what the matching rule is saying is if the bank feed brings in a transaction where the posting date, the amount, and the document number matches a transaction within Intacct, it's going to automatically match those within the bank rec, which is really nice because if I go back into my bank rec and I can just sort of show cash management, I'll be back up there on top level. So I'm just going to hop back into that bank rec and just so I can demonstrate this. Cool. So if we had a rule applied there, it noticed the transaction that was the same in Intacct and the bank, it's going to automatically match it. So hypothetically, if this rule was set up, all you'd have to do is when your bank rec is ready, when you come to do your bank rec, all you'd have to do is come in here, just view your matched transactions and apply your filter. Everything should already be matched. And it's just a case of reviewing those transactions down at the bottom and then pressing reconcile on the bank rec or making any changes that are needed. That basically automates the whole bank rec functionality. There's another thing called a creation rule, which is really nice if you have sort of the same transaction leaving the bank every month. For example, like a direct debit. If you have a direct debit that's leaving the bank and it's the same amount or a similar amount every month, and the reference on that direct debit is the same every month, or it has the same string of characters in it, or whatever it might be, you can sort of automatically generate journals that post to the same place every time, and then match those in the bank as well. So you can really automate your processes with the bank feeds that are coming into Intacct. Cool. Okay. Apologies. I've gone a bit back to front on my order. I've just realized I've gone and shown some things in AP and I'm not really showing a payment run. So what I'll do is I'll hop back into AP. Apologies, I've gone forward and backwards there. And I'll just quickly show how a payment run works within Intacct as well. Again, this is really easy. So within Sage Intacct, there's sort of two ways of doing a payment run. The first one that I want to sort of show is basically generating a bank payment file directly from Intacct. So how this works is when it's configured against your suppliers, And we'd obviously put this in as sort of part of implementation. We go to edit against one of my supplier records. You have a tab here for bank file. Here you'd come in, sort of select the country you're going to make the bank payment to, select the currency that's standard for the supplier, and enter the sort of sort code, account number, whatever it is, down at the bottom here. Cool. So when you go to make a payment, the system's going to recognize that. If I go to my accounts payable, pay purchase invoices, this is sort of the payment screen within Sage Intacct. In fact, I am going to do this on this screen instead. Okay, cool. So this is sort of my pay purchase invoices screen within Sage Intacct. So there's a couple of different ways. There's the record transfer, which is literally where you're just recording a payment that's been made. And there's ACH or bank file, which is going to generate the bank file on the back of the payment that you're making. I'm going to show record transfer because the process is the same, but then I'm just going to explain at the end how the bank file generation works, just because this test system's not configured fully for the bank file payments. So it's dead easy. Up at the top here, you've got filter by. So these are basically custom filter sets you can create and share across your organization to filter down the payment screen. So an example of how we see this working quite typically is you might want to sort of tag suppliers as direct debit suppliers. And when you go to do a payment run or make a bank file payment, you want to see those excluded. So you can sort of set a filter set that says, okay, exclude everything that's been tagged as direct debit from my payment screen. So not going in and select any sort of direct debits for bank file payment. But yeah, there's loads of functionality around this and how you can use it as well. Cool. Then you can filter down by supplier, filter down by date range and things like that. Here you come in, you select your currency and you select your bank. So I'm just going to go ahead and select this demo bank. Cool. And then who my basically remittance advice, my payment notification is going to be sent from. This is something we can configure as well to be whoever you'd want it to be. Cool. Then all it is a case of coming down and selecting the invoices that you'd want to pay. Now, the nice thing about the record transfer and bank file payment is that you can sort of pay multiple suppliers, multiple invoices all in one screen. And the system's going to know to allocate that obviously separately and create a separate lines on the bank file. So yeah, I could go ahead, come in here, select all the invoices I want to pay. Then all it is pay now. It's that easy. And that's going to, if it's a record transfer, that's going to post. And if it's a bank file payment, that's going to sort of take me to the next step of the workflow, which I'll demonstrate. We can also set some approval policies in this payment screen as well. So we can either have it so anyone can come in and post a payment. We could have it so that only certain users can. And then we could have it that any sort of payment that's been made in the system has to go to an authorizer or an authorization group, a group of users for authorization. You can also draft payments, which is this outbox feature up here. So if you're doing a payment run and you realize something's not quite right, you can just draft it and come back to it and finish the payment later, which is really nice. Cool. So it's going to show me my balance of the payment up at the right-hand side. Then all it is a case of posting the payment. Cool. If I had selected my bank file payment, the next step of the process would be to come here into my accounts payable screen and go to my payments files and then bank file generation. Cool. The file then would sit here in this screen. I just come in and select it. I can give it like a preview and make sure everything looks okay with it. I'd come here, select that file and press generate. Normally it takes a few minutes, but that will then filter through to my bank file payment screen. And these are all basically the bank file payments that have been generated and are ready to be uploaded to the bank. I'd select here, download my file. That's going to download a CSV or a text file, whatever the bank needs, up in the top. And then it's just a simple drag and drop exercise into the bank from there to get those payments in. Cool. We'll hop on to the last point I've got on my agenda, which is consolidation. So as I mentioned, that dashboard I started off, that was a consolidated dashboard. We do have a consolidation module within Sage Intacct. So if I go to my consolidation and setup and my books here. Okay, cool. So here are some books we've got set up. I'll just quickly give an overview of what we've got against these books. So I've just hopped into a random one here. There's some configuration to your multi-currency. So basically GL accounts that they're going to post to when a consolidation is run. Here are the different entities. So within Sage Intacct, you can have as many different consolidation books as you want. And you can sort of pick and choose which entities are included in the consolidation up here. So you could just have one that's two entities. You could have one that's every single entity in the system. And then you can also consolidate by dimension as well. Yeah, which is just selected down here. And then we enter an elimination adjustment account as well for the consolidation. Cool. Probably the only other thing to show is within the consolidation, Sage Intacct sort of built-in functionality is to eliminate anything that's inter-entity within the system. So any sort of transaction that's gone from one entity to the other, it's going to automatically exclude that from the consolidation when it's run. So there's no need for any sort of manual adjustments in Excel or anything for anything like that. It's all dealt with already. And then down at the bottom here, you can sort of come in and add any extra GL accounts you want to be excluded. So I know some people come in here and put in like the foreign exchange and goodwill and things like that, but that can all be excluded as well from the consolidation. So they'd all be set up. And then running a consolidation, it's as easy as run consolidation up at the top. I'd select the book I want to consolidate for, whichever one it is that's configured in the system. I'd select the period and range, and then all I have to do is consolidate up at the top here. So when you consolidate, it's going to pick up the system exchange rate. So Sage Intacct uses, well, there's a couple of different ways of having your multi-currency in Sage Intacct, but sort of the default is Sage Intacct picks up a daily rate for all currencies in the world from this site called, I think it's called oanda.com. Or you can consolidate with options where you can go in and manually enter your exchange rates at this point, or you can sort of manually enter them in the system in the background anyway for all your transactions. So a couple of different options on your consolidation exchange rates. But yeah, you'd come in and press consolidate. You can also set a recurrence. So you can get this to sort of automatically consolidate after a certain day each month or what have you, or send a notification to that consolidation needs doing or whatever you need to do. So you can do all that there. But yeah, all you do is press consolidate. You'd select your period, press consolidate. You'd select who you'd want to be sort of notified of the consolidation happening as it progresses. Press OK. Cool. And then it'll turn blue. This consolidation is in progress. It depends on how many transactions you've got in the system, but typically it takes sort of 5 minutes to run all the calculations in the background. And then that consolidation is going to be done and all the sort of figures posted. And then sort of any report in the system. So if I come back to my report center, just get a sec to load. If I go and run a profit and loss UK report, hopefully this one's configured to have some consolidated figures. So not, let me find one that's got some consolidation. Maybe it's on profit and loss by department. Cool. And I've got my reporting method. And then here, instead of in my accrual book, I can basically say, right, I want it to run on this consolidation book or whatever it might be. I select it, select my other departments, dimensions that I need, and run that report. I'm going to see if this works. It might not because of some other configuration we've got in the system. Let's run it on this GBP budgeted book. It might tell me my consolidation is not being run for this book. Okay, cool. It has worked. Cool. And then that's my consolidated report in GBP for that book that I've selected. So yeah, consolidation again is really, really nice and easy within Sage Intacct. I think that's pretty much everything on the agenda. Michael, if I can send it back over to you, if that's okay.
Absolutely. I do want to thank everybody for joining us for the Sage Intacct weekly demonstration. Enjoy the rest of the day.